Okay, so we've been talking about courage all month here. And as life would have it, I was watching one of my favorite shows, Shrinking on Apple TV. If you're not watching it, you might want to check it out and really, really love it. Hi there. In case we haven't met, I'm Anne Marie Terrasso, your conscious relationship coach, here to support you to transform your most important relationships for good. If that's something you're interested in, like and follow for more. Okay, so I'm watching the show, and of course, they're talking about courage. And in a scene, one character reminds another that to be courageous is your willingness to face situations not without fear, but despite the fear, right? The thing we've been talking about over and over all month. But the truth is, we are still very, very human. So while it's important to not allow your fears to control you, it can also be helpful to the mind to understand, acknowledge, and get to the root fear to help transcend or transform it. Because the truth is, your fears are lurking in the corners of your mind, ready to come out and zap you at any moment and take you down. So, developing a practice of becoming more radically aware of your fears and getting into right relationship with them is imperative for the health of your relationships. You know that your brain is wired to avoid risk, especially when relationships are involved, because rejection can feel like a threat to your very, very survival. So when those fears come up, you need to have a plan to navigate them. So recently, this came up for me because I needed to have a difficult conversation with someone I love deeply that I'd been avoiding. So, step one always comes down to self awareness. You must pay attention to your unique body signals and sensations that alert you that fear is present for you. Your body will always tell you. For me, I get a big knot in my stomach, my jaw gets tense, I get butterflies in my belly big time. Those are some of the key body sensations that flag fear is present. It's really, really uncomfortable, by the way. I do not like being in my body when this is occurring. And so I'm also familiar with all the things I do then when I'm feeling this way in my body because I have a really hard time focusing. I go from one task to the next. I snack, I call and text friends, I scroll. Basically, I do everything I can to distract myself from the discomfort in my body and the fearful thoughts in my mind that, by the way, are causing the discomfort in my body. So, in my case, this was all happening when I thought about having this difficult conversation. So, I dropped into one of my handy practices that helps support me to move with the fear rather than against it. And by the way, I've linked a worksheet, downloadable worksheet for you to use next time you find yourself in a situation where you might need a little help finding your courage. So let's talk about the process. After self awareness, which I will say over and over and over again is the key to your well being and healthy, sustainable relationships. After that process, I play the then what game. It's a worst case scenario game that typically ends up with some ridiculous outcome that often has me giggling at myself. It starts with me identifying the fear and then asking the question, then what? A number of times until I get to like this rock bottom fear, until I can't identify any other fears. In my case, I was afraid the conversation would not go well. So I asked myself, then what? If the conversation doesn't go well, then what? And I answer. Now remember, even if the answer makes no sense to your logical mind, don't try and talk yourself out of it. Just let the silly, irrational thoughts come through. I answer, then we'll fight. And again, then what will happen? Then he or she will get angry with me and stop speaking to me. Then what? Then we'll be out of relationship. They'll reject me because they don't care about me as much as I care about them. Then what? We'll never talk again. Then what? I won't have a relationship with them. Then what? You get the drift. For me, in my case, my rock bottom fear was that if I raised this difficult topic with this important person, we might never talk again or be out of relationship, which in this case was ridiculous and unreasonable. But that doesn't matter because when it comes to the fear, the content is not relevant or important. In other words, what you're afraid of is not as important as the fact that you're experiencing fear. Because to the body, fear is paralyzing and puts you into your fight, flight, flee response, which is why, once again, cultivating your self awareness is the key to healthy, conscious, successful relationships. That was a tongue twister, not just with others, but also with yourself. So, and by the way, I have a workshop coming up this week called Transform Conflict to Connection with One Simple Question, where I teach you a simple, reliable question to help you shift out of fear so you can reverse relationship conflict to deeper connection. I'll include the registration link below so you can register today and reserve your spot. Okay, so back to my situation. Once I entangled my biggest fear, that we won't be in relationship, I was able to step into this conversation more authentically and honestly. And while it was still a bumpy, difficult conversation, because it was, I felt more confident and clear as we moved through it and got to deeper understanding of both of us. So we both understood one another. And then we got back into connection from a heart centered space. So because I was able to sort of ride side by side with my fear and acknowledge it, I was able to stay more centered and grounded. You see, when you acknowledge your fear and stay with it, it's much easier to stay present and not allow the fear to take over. It's kind of like driving down a 2-lane highway. You're riding next to the fear, but the fear is not driving the car. You have space from the fear, which allows you to be more present and available with courage when you need it. Okay, so how about you? Where in your life and your relationships might courage be calling you forward right now? What is one small fear that you can identify that might be holding you back? Don't forget, awareness is key. If you're ready to stop letting fear run the show in your relationships, download my Cultivating Courage worksheet to help you get clear on what's really holding you back and take action from a place of courage and confidence. And if you're ready to go just a little bit deeper and start transforming fear into courage in your relationships, I'd love for you to join me for my Transform Conflict to Connection workshop in just a few days. In this workshop, we'll explore how fear shows up in your relationships, how it keeps you stuck in patterns of conflict, and most importantly, how to shift into courage to create deeper connection, clarity, and trust. It's the perfect way to step into the new year with intention, self-awareness, and practical tools to transform your relationships for good. I'd love to see you there, so click the link below to grab your spot. And I'd love to know, hit reply or comment below and let me know what's one area in your life and relationships where courage is calling you forward right now. I hope you like this. And if you do, like, follow, subscribe, and share with a friend. I'll see you on the other side of fear.